Today I want to talk about what we can do about cognitive evolution and how we can use that to improve as artists. Think of where we are in our stage of evolution as being just at the very beginning, that we are. It isn't like, oh, we have evolved, we have changed, but it isn't like, okay, we're there, we are who we are. No, we are still under the pressures and conditions of evolving. Okay, and this is totally just my surmising, but what I think is that humans, for the most part, physically we're more or less at a good stage of evolving. Our claws have evolved to be excellent at working with small detail and using our hands to be great manipulators. They've stopped being clunky weapons and have turned into refined tools. And where our evolving is going to take most place in the next few centuries will have to do with cognitive evolution. We do have the brains that have evolved, but they're very much at mid-stage, if not at the very beginning stages. And some of the cognitive evolution that we have to go through isn't so much about the brains even becoming even bigger, but some of the change in the way the hardware is wired, some of the hard wiring of our brains needs to evolve. Further explain what I'm talking about, so let's look at robots. Let's say that someone built a 7-foot-tall robot in 1975, and it was the best robot of that year. Amazing. And then we move forward to 2030. Now, if we want to build the most amazing robot for 2030, we could go back to that 1975 and just switch out the computer that runs that robot. We might make, some changes here and there to the sensors and stuff, but really, for the most part, what really needs to improve with robots is their brain, their computer. So how have humans evolved cognitively so far, and why is it a mid-stage? Why is it lacking something? Why is it under some evolutionary pressure? What about it needs to continue to evolve? So the human brain has evolved to live in a virtual world of future scenarios. So dumber animals will walk into a room and they're only seeing the very next thing. I'm hungry, food on the table, I'm going to eat. And that's the reality they live in. We humans walk into a room and we say, oh, there's food there, oh, there's our coworker here. If I say this to the coworker, that might happen or that might happen. If I say this, that could happen, and I need to do this, and I have this responsibility about this future occasion, and I have this long-term goal, and I have, so we're living in a virtual reality that has a much wider time scope to it. But what is and we have evolved to see the world that way. But what is lacking is we still have a problem with the way our brain handles this, because we can make a goal to write a short novel in the next year, but where the problem is that we then will place that goal in the moment. We'll try to do the entire. We'll try to live the future in the moment. So when you're under pressure, this is what you're doing. You're having that wider scope experience, and yet you're falling back on some earlier forms of brain activity where you're still in the moment, except now, instead of just trying to go over to the table to get that food, you're trying to finish an entire novel. My surmising, not genuine scientific thinking about this sort of thing is that 200 years ago people were even worse about this kind of thing. That very slowly over time people are going to get to a point where they can still have vast ideas about future planning, future scenarios, what to do on the wider scope, and at the same time they can very much operate in the moment and have now our brains are all about emotions. They can have a very strong emotional sense that what they're only doing the next thing in the moment, and yet they can have an emotional sense that all of those ideas about future and what they could do to get that or that or that are important to think about, and yet we don't need to cram them into the moment. Humans live under this false idea of what is hard work and what is really easy to do. And the truth is that you're working as hard, you're working extremely hard right now. Your heart is will be running a marathon your entire life, pumping your blood. Your lungs are going to tirelessly exert themselves your entire life. And yes, while it is true that concentrated thinking is hard work, and there are a lot of activities that we do that are very hard work, that involve burning a lot of calories, that involve a lot of focus and effort, that we don't think of as hard work at all. We can have more restful states, and we can have states where we're involved in more concentrated activity. And even though we think of hard work as that more active, concentrated, focusing activity, the fact is that most of what we think of as those pleasurable, relaxing activities are actually really hard work. I think that in a lot of cases, a lazy person has to work a lot harder than those of us who are very much involved in pursuing goals and that sort of thing. And of course, well known now is that even sleep is a highly active state. Our brains go through phases of being very active, and our bodies go through phases of being very active. So it is for the most part, it really isn't like a point of things slowing down and getting still. It is about a different form of activity. So if high levels of activity and concentration can be done very easily and can be seen, can be felt to be done without effort, how do we get to that point? Because getting to that point is like laying down the tracks for an express trip of making our artwork. Back to the cognitive evolution, the number one way to do this is to train ourselves to differentiate between our future views, our imagining of the future, and the reality of the moment, and to train ourselves out of trying to cram supposed futures into the moment. So when you're going to spend a year writing that small novel, you are going to do that, but you're not going to do that. You're going to write the goal and put it up by your computer, small novel by the end of the year. But the reality that you need to train yourself into seeing when you write is that you're turning the next page. You're writing that first scene, and the first scene is going to be a page and a half, and that's all you're doing. You're not writing a novel in the present moment. You are writing that one scene. You can think a little bit about what that chapter is going to be like, but then you're not writing that chapter. You're just writing what a character says, and you don't feel rushed, and if you think you can improve upon exactly the things that character says, that's all you're doing. You're only working on what can fit in the moment. We creatures of the 2000s are in the very early stage of human evolution. 1,000 years from now, they'll really see us as just one of the stages. So take a little time, say hello to future humanity 1,000 years from now who are so lucky to have evolved past this point of cognitive evolution. And so we need to realize that in order to make that leap of evolution to a point where we can fully optimize a future sense, we need to go through some different kind of awkward stages in between. And we're in the middle of it right now. All of us suffer from this condition where we're trying to cram our imagined future into the present moment. And emotionally we can't quite handle it. It causes all kinds of mental disorders. It causes all kinds of fatigue and pressure and stress and this whole illusion about what is hard work and what is easy. And these are all the pressures we feel from being in a beginning to mid-stage point of this particular cognitive evolution. Is there anything we can do about it? Of course. Another wonderful cognitive evolution that humans are beginning to enjoy more and more is that they have more control over exactly the structure of their brains, exactly how their brains will operate. They are not so locked in to how they're going to behave, how their brains are going to behave, and so you can train yourself to differentiate between future imaginings and the present moment. And any amount of time that you spend training yourself along those lines is going to make your life in general much easier. For starters, you want to think of your time to do artwork like a meditation. It's helpful to structure it, to say, I will do artwork for this certain amount of time, and go to it like a meditation. Say, here's my goal, finishing that chapter by the end of the month, but here's what I'm actually going to do. I'm only, visualize yourself as eating a meal but taking it in very small bites. Any way that you can communicate with your subconscious to start handling emotionally the different cognitive states that you go through. Maybe for a time decide to pay more attention to your future imaginings, to recognize when you're actually reacting to where you are right now and what's happening right now, and to when you're surmising and future plotting and all of those different things. And don't shun imagining of the future. It's an extremely useful tool that you have. The thing is that the next time, go ahead and say, okay, I'm going to think about the future. I'm going to think about what I'm going to do tomorrow, and I'm going to spend a little bit of time realizing that that is just imagination. That is not real. I'm imagining in a way to make better decisions about what to do right now. If you're patient, realize that this is something that you can develop over time. Realize that this is something that you can get better and better and better at if you're willing to just do a little bit at a time and not expect too much from it. But make part of your artistic practice, whenever you sit down to do art for the first time, make it a practice, make it a conscious practice where you say, these are my artistic goals, but I even say it out loud if it's helpful. Say, right now all I'm doing is turning the page. Right now all I'm doing is writing a sentence about this. Right now all I'm doing is making some real basic shapes that will show me what the figure will look like that I'm about to draw. And really break it down to what you can handle just in the moment, because emotionally, really all we can handle is what will fit into a moment. We just can't cram more. When we try, it won't happen. We can only do what we can do now, and we feel better when we're only handling things that can be handled in the moment. That is the difference between easy and hard work. The only thing that easy activities are very doable activities. And all activities, when you break them down into momentary pieces, are doable. If you tell your heart, I need you to pump for me again. Okay, I'll do that. And then you tell it again, okay, I'll do that. Okay, I'll do that. But if you told your heart, I need you to pump blood for me non-stop for the next year, you could have a heart attack. That would seem impossible. With your art, if you write your goals down and try to simplify them and make them reasonable and make goals that you could see yourself achieving in the long run, once you write it down, you're sort of offloading that from your mind. You're putting it on a piece of paper and putting it by your computer. And then you can go ahead and you don't need, in the moment, you don't need to focus on that long distance goal. You can refer to it to guide you. But the more time that you train yourself to pay attention just to the next activity, you can enjoy life more, you can enjoy making your artwork more, because the future is all imagined. Real life, where we are really at, is right here. And we can never do more than that very little next thing. We can imagine longer stretches of time, but we can never, for our entire lives, all that we will get, all that we will do, will be that next little movement. If you wake up and you're really tired and you're like, oh, I told myself that I would write for 20 minutes and I'm just so tired, I just don't know if I can do it today. Forget about the 20 minutes, you're just going to write for a minute. You're going to sit down like you usually do and you're just going to write for a minute. Now, what you do at the end of that minute, now, I think that's up to you. But the point is that you're breaking it down. You're breaking it down into smaller pieces for yourself. And you consciously do this. You consciously decide to pay much, as long as once you get your goals put down on paper, then you tell yourself, I'm not going to pay so much, that's going to guide me, but I'm going to kind of forget about those goals and I'm only going to do what will take the next few seconds to do. I hope that was helpful. Please take the time to go check out my artwork at solomation.com. It's an illustrated story. I'm putting it up in webisodes. And if you want to vote to get me to make more of these tutorials, please hit the like button. That's you directly contributing to more of these being made. Leave a comment and subscribe. I hope your artwork goes great, and I hope you have a good day. Okay, imagine that you are a little ant who is weaving a large, elaborate, beautiful rug full of these amazing patterns. Now this rug is like 8 feet by 10 feet, this really elaborate, and it has in it maps and quotes and images and woven in portraits of people of history, this extremely elaborate rug, and you're just a tiny ant. But you're a very special kind of an ant. You're an ant that in an instant can see the entire rug all at the same time. You can all of a sudden see it. You can have an out-of-body experience where you're looking at the entire thing. But you're still just an ant. You're still just able to do what you can do in that tiny basis. Now the problem with this scenario is that every time that you have that out-of-body bigger view of the overall project, you feel this feeling of, oh my God, I can't do this. I'm just an ant. This is going to take so long. It's going to be so hard. It's so impossible. But when you go back into the ant, when you're just working on the next weave and picking out the next color, that's easy to do. You're born to do that. It's so fun and you enjoy that. And you need to have that larger view to make very amazing decisions about what to do on that tiny ant-sized basis. So you want to continue to be able to have that out-of-body larger view, but emotionally you need to realize that it's not your physical reality. Your physical reality is that you're just an ant, and you're never going to finish the entire rug in a minute. All you can do is pick out that next color and weave it in with the ones that you already have. And that's going to be the source of your greatest enjoyment. So you need to train yourself to be able to get as much out of being a little ant. 1,000 years from now, the great-great-great-great-great-grandchild of that ant will have evolved to where when they have that out-of-body larger experience, they feel it for what it is. They realize that it's just for guidance, it's just for making better decisions in the moment. And then they go back to the view of being, they enjoy existing in their body again, living as the tiny ant, only able to see a few different strands of thread and the ones that they've already woven, and realize that is where their real action takes place, and to pace themselves and learn to enjoy all those small steps, and that life is nothing but a multitude of tiny steps, tiny bites, and that's where we're going to find our real enjoyment, our real pleasure in life.